Okay, here we go. There we go. Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, new studio, lots of buttons, just a lot going on. Hi, everybody. It's Johnny Torres, the Yard Sign. We're going to do a special edition of the show coming to you live from the Bakemore Pie Studios, and we're going to be carrying the presidential debate along with us. Only it's going to be like hanging out with us because we're going to add our little commentaries and quips and analysis and jokes, if you will. And so we've got some people who are going to be here on camera, some people are going to be here off camera, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So let me go ahead and turn this around real quick to the guys over at the desk. From left to right, that's Joe Wicker in seat numero uno, and over on the far right, looking like a frat party just threw up all over my table, is Aníbal Cabrera. So, how you doing, sir? I'm doing good. Oh, hold on. It helps when I turn on everybody's mics. There we go.
So I can hear myself.
There we go.
So I'm doing fine. I have the hats. My wife made me a watch
little
party,
snack bag?
a watch party snack bag. So
yeah, which you haven't shared yet, by the way.
I haven't, but I will eventually. We'll see how the tonight goes.
Right. And Joe, what's going on? You look a little busy over there.
Well, just trying to make sure that all of our technology is working here.
Apparently, I'm the one that's technologically deficient today. I mean, I can't get this.
I heard you. I have my earpiece.
We had to start
Joe
this
Biden
thing
have
twice.
his? That's the question.
That's
as long
a good
as Joe
question.
Biden's got his earpiece, everything will be fine.
Well, that's one of the things that people are talking about is Joe going to have an earpiece? Does he get bathroom breaks? And I'll put that in air quotes because we all remember Hillary's infamous bathroom break where she got the answers to the questions. She got advised on the sidelines during one of the debates. And so people were also wondering if there was going to be any kind of a drug test going on, and which I thought was kind of interesting. Of course, the big question is, does Joe Biden have the energy? Does he have the what it takes, basically to really go out and campaign? He's been running this campaign from his basement, doing very few public appearances. I think even if they tried to pull a rally, I don't think they could get one going. But do you think at the end of the day, is it one of those things where the majority of people have made up their mind and none of that matters, or are people looking at that and being like, well, that's kind of weird. He's not doing any public events. He's not doing any appearances. He's not really out there campaigning.
So this entire campaign season has been a test to see what it'll look like. If the Republicans are doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is they're knocking on doors, they're going to rallies, they're doing all these things, then you'll see it in the polls. And you see it now. Almost 62% of Republicans are enthusiastic for this election, whereas the Democrats, about 40% of Democrats are enthusiastic to actually go and vote. And enthusiasm is very important. So we'll see how that works out because the Democrats aren't knocking on doors. They're not doing anything. If anything, they have Bloomberg paying for people to get out of jail for them to go to vote.
$100 million, or that was the ad spend. What was it, 16 or something $1 million for the fines? And stuff?
I think it was plus 50 actually.
Oh wow!
So the amount of money that he spent on that was pretty legit. But will that reflect in votes?
All right. Well, right behind Joe and Aníbal, we've got Chris Wallace at the desk. He's going to be moderating today's debate, and again, we'll be kind of adding our 2 cents here and there. Over off to the side, we've got Nick, we've got Jeffrey, who are going to be chiming in from time to time as well. We've got Lindsay hanging out, so we got a little watch party going here, and we thank you all for watching. Chris Wallace getting started. How do you guys feel about Chris Wallace being the moderator here?
I really don't care.
I like him. I think he is
I think he's a snake in the grass.
He is not a snake in the grass.
Yep.
I think, honestly, and Joe, I get where you're coming from, but I genuinely believe he's a through and through journalist. He may be one of the few actual journalists that we have left on television.
He might
and he's played it fair. He's played it fair in his interviews.
You think so?
Yeah, and people think that because it's Fox News that he needs to give the president softball questions and that he needs. And look, I think Chris Wallace is an old school journalist. He is of that era, and I think he realizes that for him to maintain his credibility, he has to come with real questions. Yeah. And Republicans got all offended because, again, they thought that it was going to be an easy interview, an easy win for the president. And when he asked them the tough questions, people didn't like it. But that's his job. That's what journalists should be doing.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, Yeah, you're right. There are some people that watch him on Fox and they get upset because they feel like he's supposed to be throwing softballs. I guess I don't know. I'm just not expecting. Well, you know what? He's gonna stick. He's gonna stick to the script. I think we can count on that. And the question is just how hard is he gonna push back on Biden? I'm just not. If he sees an earpiece in Biden's ear, is he going to call him out?
No, he's not. I don't think he should.
He's
call
not going
to
call him out.
But I think he's been.
You don't think he should call him?
No, I honestly don't. I don't think he should. It looks even worse. I think.
What if he brings it up? They're not allowed to have earpieces, right?
Here they come.
Here they come.
So the president.
Are they going to shake hands?
Let's see. Hey, two hands.
Hey, there's my old guy. Hey, old buddy, old pal. Long time no see. Hey.
So I see they released you from the retirement home.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's go ahead and pipe in the audio from the broadcast.
Waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject.
Oh man, going right into it. Here we go.
President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences.
Hey-o.
We have the Senate,
yes,
we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time. Even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right
to
choose her.
He gets 2
minutes. Very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland.
Joe Biden.
The problem
Are those the real
they
teeth?
didn't have the election, so
No,
they
it's
were
probably
stopped.
dangerous.
Probably.
And
Can't knock
probably
him for
that would
that.
happen
I'm not
in
saying
reverse
it's a bad
also.
thing.
Definitely
you
would
can't
happen
knock
in
him for
reverse.
that.
So we won the
doesn't have
election,
any
and we have the
control
right
over
to
that.
do it, Chris.
Oh my God! I just realized
President Trump,
Joe
thank
Biden's
you.
tie. That's a horrible
Same question
tie.
to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted.
1 million people have
And so
already
the
voted.
thing that should happen is we should wait.
All
we
he
should
has
wait
to
and see
do
what
is
the
say
outcome
that's
of
not
this
what the
election
Constitution
is.
says.
Because that's the only
That's
way
it.
the American people get
Constitution
to
doesn't say
express
that.
their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip
He almost
20
stumbled.
million
He almost stumbled.
He almost
from
stumbled.
having insurance, health insurance now.
He was going to call
if
it Obamacare.
If it goes into court.
He almost called it Obamacare.
Trump will call it
the justice,
Obamacare.
and I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court,
It
and
wasn't
if it's
constitutional.
struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
When they take a question
100 million people with pre-existing conditions,
and bring in every other topic to answer a question that was, that was completely unrelated to.
Yeah.
Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly.
Here we go.
At some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
Hey, Daryl.
And the
Election's
100
already
million
started,
people,
so it
Joe,
goes.
the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into,
And
gentlemen,
we're
we're now
there.
into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that.
Didn't take long to get the S word in there.
What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it.
now
We do
Obamacare.
not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your party
is-
has said.
That is
Oh, I love
simply
it.
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
That is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in
What'd he
fact,
say?
Not
approved
according to
of.
Harris.
What I approved
Kamala
of.
Harris.
Here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way,
the moderator needs to take control of
the
this.
200,000 people that have died on his watch. How many
I'm
of those
telling you.
have survived? Well, there's
Joe,
7 million
what'd he
people
say?
that contracted
20 million?
What does it
270
mean for
million people
them
that
going
died.
forward
Did he
if
just
you
say
strike
270
down
million?
the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying.
you gotta
because
get on
couldn't
mic if you're gonna
provide
chime
them
in.
proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President.
later, Joe.
Oh, see, here
Much
goes
later.
here goes
Mr.
here goes
President,
Wallace.
about 2
dude. I'm
million
telling you,
people.
he's
You're not
cutting
President,
them
as a
off.
moderator.
He's cutting them off.
It's because
We're going
they've
to talk
gone
about
into
COVID
another
in the
topic.
next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. In the court.
Wow.
And so that's also at
He's
stake
not.
right now.
I
And
don't
so
think
the
he
election
is.
is all
You don't know it's on the ballot.
I told you
Why
guys.
is it on the ballot?
Joe
Because-
Biden has been doing
Why
this
isn't
for
it on the ballot? It's not
47
on the
years.
ballot.
He's showing
It's
up.
on the ballot
are
in
you
the
I don't
court.
think so.
Are
In
you
the
allowed
court.
to vote
Well,
for
there's nothing
Roe?
happening
I'm
there.
just saying he's showing
Donald,
up.
And you
Just be
don't know
quiet for a minute.
her
Tonight, he
view
prepared for this
on
debate.
Roe
Yeah,
v.
we're also
Wade.
5
I don't
minutes
know
into
you.
the debate.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So,
God, they just threw
on
everything in
health
the
care,
first
yeah,
question.
they threw
and
everything
back
at
to
it.
Roe v.
Yeah.
Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general,
No,
are
she should
seeking
not
to
recuse.
overturn
No.
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of the
and when I
individual
finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse
opportunity.
me. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Obamacare.
plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask,
Obamacare.
Sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe.
The
individual mandate was the most unpopular
Mr. Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to,
will
Mr.
protect people
President,
with
I'm the
There was
moderator
no
of
way.
this
He's
debate,
the best.
and I would like you
He's
to
not
let
the
me
moderator.
ask my
You're just
question, and
sitting
then
in
you
the
can answer
middle
the
table.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan.
Okay, that
First
was
of all,
a
I guess I'm
little.
debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against
People
big
don't
pharma.
understand. People
Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it.
There we go.
Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost. I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth? So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs.
Anybody
what
need
we're
some
doing,
water?
Prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other
Zephyr Hill's
countries
making
to buy
insulin now.
drugs because they pay just a tiny
As
fraction.
I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big.
this
This
is
is
happy,
big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny
Nothing
people
is
who are
free.
poor
Nothing is free.
Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be
second
enrolled
fumble.
in the public option. That option, number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders'
I
far
did-
left,
There we go.
or the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it,
when
and that gives
manifest-
you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
Not by
I
much.
beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not by
here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2 days
I tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal.
He got
I got
very
lucky.
lucky.
I'm going to get very lucky tonight
did,
as well.
but why is Trump
And
bringing up the
tonight I'm going to
Democratic
make sure
primary?
because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal.
He's getting
the
lucky
fact
with
is
what?
that
Just
trying to throw him
everything he's
off.
saying so
Yeah.
far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I
I'm
want to
telling
make
you.
Mr.
sure.
President, can
Hey.
you let him finish, sir?
It's coming off
He
a little
doesn't know
too
how to do that.
defensive.
Yeah.
Yep,
has-
Biden
you
is
know,
staying on point.
You picked
Be
I'm
surprised.
telling
Go
the
ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go
the
on,
wrong
go on,
night
go.
at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let
Now you're
him-
disavowing it.
There
Trump's
is no
going into the
manifesto.
gutter. He's
Number
Please
gonna
let him
throw
speak,
them
Mr.
off.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
He just lost the left.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
Absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
medical
Do you have
socialized
any-
Jeffrey, did he lose the left?
medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President,
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because he in fact already
We need to bring in
has
our
cost
resident
10
economist
million
over
people
here,
their
Jeffrey
healthcare
Rivera,
that they had
off
from
camera.
employers
We need to bring in
because
our
of his
resident
recession.
economist.
Number one.
clear
Number
up this
two,
debate.
Of
there
his
are 20
recession.
million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in
Yeah,
the
even
eye and say
Chris
that's what he
Verkylen
wants
saying
to
Trump
do.
needs to
Take
clam it up.
away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known
just
for.
had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
Okay.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high,
That's
and it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what
So
his people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no.
rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no
getting
plan for
run
health care.
over.
Of course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about.
Was not expecting health care to be
He does not have a plan.
I think tonight.
He doesn't have
I
a
wasn't
plan.
either.
But we're
And the
only.
fact is, this man
Well, they
doesn't
haven't
know
even
what
gotten
he's
on
talking
taxes
about.
yet.
All right, I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
List, Joe.
This
Who's
is
on your
so,
list?
Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
I'm telling you.
He needs to back off.
I'm telling you.
Trump needs to back off.
Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe. 47 years.
Look, it's fine to punch back, but the problem is he's not letting him say anything.
Biden, being the career politician that he is, got a question that boxed him in a corner, and he didn't let himself get boxed in.
More than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. Does he have a notepad? When he was presented with that number, he said it is what it is.
He has notes in front of him.
It is what it is.
I don't think, does Trump have notes in front of him?
No.
That's why it is.
No.
The president has no
No, he doesn't have
plan.
notes in front of him.
He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open, open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was
right.
too.
Pelosi was partying
terrible.
in Chinatown.
You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side.
Gavin Newsom was one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was.
President Trump did a phenomenal job.
The governor of California did publicly praise him. I was shocked by that.
We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did.
Correct.
You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I think if
I know
Trump
how to do the job.
gives
know how to
Biden
get
the
the job.
breathing
You didn't
room
do very well
to
in
answer
swine
the
flu.
questions, I think he'll run away with
you
this.
were a
with this
disaster.
debate.
Your own
If he'll calm down.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to calm down.
People died, not 200,000.
You have to remember, Trump's
Very
instinct is to
economic-
punch back
You
immediately.
Exactly.
As soon as you hit him,
You made a
his
point,
instinct
but
is to punch
And there was
back.
no
He
one.
almost needs to learn how to
We didn't
slowly
shut down the
counterpunch,
economy.
wait for him to come in.
This
and
is his economy.
clean him
It's
out.
being he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning?
And
had an
Democrats
empty
want to
chair
keep
at the kitchen
the
table?
economy
How
shut
many,
down.
Yeah.
He's going to talk about that. How
How
many
many
Democrat
of you were in a
states are still
situation
closed?
where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
That
Far
is-
more people.
And,
You would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own, his
Months
own
behind right now.
own
Is he's
CDC
really going
director
after only
says
200,000
we could lose as
families.
many as
Like,
another
you're not going big
200,000 people
picture.
between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine,
Nonsense. It's all
first of all,
speculative.
vaccine,
Oh, yeah.
but
It
I don't
doesn't
trust
matter.
him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly
This is not a
either
good-
contradicted or been at
debate.
odds with some of your government's own top
With the
scientists. The
moderator.
week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what
that
I call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it will
we're
be
going to
available.
deliver it right
like that
away.
he
We
keeps
have the
debating
military all
Chris,
set up
and that's,
logistically.
yeah,
They're
in my
all set
opinion,
up.
kind of part of the
We have
problem.
our military that
you
delivers
can't argue
soldiers,
the moderator.
and they
There's
can
no
do
winning in that
200,000 a
situation.
day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man.
Trump's
It's
trying to
all set
debate
up.
two people.
By
Yeah.
Easter, this would be gone away.
Worst one.
By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe
That
you
is
could
a
inject
terrible
some
tie
bleach in
Biden's
your
running.
arm, and that
Yeah,
would
it's
take care
horrible.
of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him.
know that.
I
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal: this man is talking about a vaccine. Every
Biden's
serious,
fake news.
every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year, but the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we
Okay,
will.
well, how is that a
Pray
failure
God
on
we
Trump's
will.
part? He
I
doesn't
understand how
control
that
vaccine
works.
development.
I want to pick up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
or Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do, but there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him.
Here at this great hospital. What hospital?
That's not.
Oh, the facility
they're the people.
that they're in.
And by the way,
to the scientists that are in charge,
by the way,
they will have the vaccine very soon.
I thought they were at a
you
college or
believe
something.
for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the
Here's
lies
Biden
he's
talking
told
directly
about
to the
the
American
whole
people.
issue
Politician.
relating
He's
to
talking
COVID.
directly to the
He
people because
still
that's what he's
hasn't even
trained to do.
acknowledged That he
I would agree
knew
with Chris.
this
He
was
is
happening,
good
knew
at-
how dangerous.
That's what he's
it was
trained to do.
Back in February,
I don't
and
think he even
didn't
knows what year it
even
is,
tell
but he
you.
knows how to do
He's
this.
on
He's been
record
doing it for
as
60
saying
years of his
He
life.
panicked, or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart?
Say again, Jeffrey?
So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated
I missed
either
what
the
he
lowest
said.
or almost the lowest in
making
your class. Don't
Oh
ever
my
use the word
goodness.
smart.
He forgot.
I think he
Don't
forgot
ever
what
use
school
that
he
word.
graduated
give me a
from.
break.
Because you know
hold on.
what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years.
There we go.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
see,
and
We're
it's
going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know
Yes, he does.
what the plan is.
We
You've
have the
got
phases.
to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the
Which was
PPE,
PPP.
as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, and they're acting like we don't have 50 governors who know their states better than anybody
Yeah.
to make those
by the way,
decisions.
Also-
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even.
Also,
meet with them.
Pelosi and Schumer are
Republicans
holding
won't
up.
meet with the
Well,
Senate.
Pelosi is
And
holding
he
up
He sits in
any
his golf
more
course.
small business.
He's
literally,
gonna hit
think
it.
about
He's
it.
gonna
You
hit him for
probably
that.
play
Think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a
He
great thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down
Oh
the
my
country.
God, it's
We just
beautiful.
went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease.
said,
Now
"Let me
we
shake you
found
down for a
that
second."
elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have
See, this is where I
Democrat
wish Trump
governors
was a
all.
better debater.
One of the
If he
reasons
brought
they
up
shut down is because they
Manhattan
want
right
to keep
now
it
and how
shut
it's a
down
ghost
until
town,
after the
it would
election
end.
on
Yeah.
November
I want to
3rd.
move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I've got to
subject.
respond.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants to
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to
was trying to get there. He was trying to get
increasingly
there. Yeah, he
question
was.
the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from me. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
Vice President Biden.
Oh, I love it.
Wait
See, that's the Trump we needed.
Give him the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress,
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
well, masks.
Problem is he
masks
came
make
in
a big
way too
difference. His
defensive at
own
the beginning.
Head of the
Yeah, he
CDC
did.
said if we just wore masks
Yeah, he
between
did.
now, if everybody
Maybe
wore
he's
masks
settling
and social
down. We'll
distancing
see.
between now and
I mean,
January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
I mean, you figure he's still got an hour.
Dr.
He's still got
Fauci said
55
the
minutes.
opposite.
I want to ask you, we got a
said
little
very
bit of
strongly.
a
Biden's
minute
already
left
made
in
a
this
few
Masks
minutes
segment.
like
are not
gooks.
good.
Not
Then
knowing where he
changed his mind.
graduated
He said
from,
masks are good.
forgetting
I'm
some
okay with
things.
masks.
Trump has
I
an
wanna ask you
opportunity
about
to
one
level
last
out,
subject because
and Biden might get
your
tired.
different approaches
telling you
has
right
even
now,
affected the way
I
that
think
you
Biden's
have
ready for his nap.
campaigned.
I mean,
President
honestly,
Trump,
you're right.
you're holding
I
large
think if
rallies
he
with crowds
paces
packed
himself
together,
and kind of
thousands
just
of
waits
people.
for his moments, he's just going to
Outside,
run
yes,
this out
sir.
of the
Yeah,
park.
I
Maybe
think,
Trump's got to be
Vice
careful.
President
Yeah, but I think
Biden,
Trump
you are
is
needs to
holding
calm
much
down.
smaller
starting fights and getting
events
him off.
with
Because nobody will show up.
He still thinks he's debating Hillary, who was
Nobody
much
shows
No
up
one
tougher.
shows up to the
In any
debate.
case, why
Nobody
you
will show
holding the
up
big
on his
rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not
hangars,
worried
and
about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside.
can't
That's a
say
big
that.
difference, according to the.
No, he can. I
experts.
mean, it's
We do
you
them
know,
outside. We have
they've
tremendous
done it for everything else. They did it for
crowds,
Sturgis.
as
They did it
see.
for
I mean, every.
I think I have
and
COVID
literally
right now.
in 24 hours
Why do you
notice.
say things like that?
And Joe
Now we have
does
to all
the
get
circles
tested.
and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Yes, sir.
one of the last big rallies?
Three
he had?
people.
And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, "No, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested?" I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
now
negative
he's
Cheek to
talking
jowl.
back to the
No
people.
negative effect.
We've had no negative effect, and we've had.
So he's saying it's
35,
wrong to be
40,000
concerned
people
about your own
wanting
health
to
and
Just
about
quickly
getting.
finish up because I want to
Yeah, he's a
move on to
Democrat.
our
You can
next-
have
Yes,
both.
I would.
You
He's
can be
been
upset
totally
and
irresponsible the way in
on the
which
other
he
side.
has handled the
President can afford
social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encourage them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Honestly, no
The
one
economy
cares about. No
is,
one
I think it's fair
literally
to say,
cares about his
recovering
rallies.
faster than expected
No one
from
shows
the
up.
shutdown.
No.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that
I don't know if anyone in
mean
statistics has ever
to
used K
the
as a
American
shape.
people in terms of the
Yeah.
economy?
Yeah.
President
It's
Trump,
supposed to be a
this
V-shape.
segment
No,
you wrote for
What
he's
is
saying,
that? What's
he's
a
saying
K?
the reason why he
greatest
says the K
economy in
is he says
history.
that
We
some
closed it
people
down because
in
of the
some,
China plague. When the plague
some are
came in, we
increasing
closed
and some
it
are
down, which
decreasing.
was very
So
hard
it builds a K.
psychologically to do. He didn't
Honestly,
think we
the
should
economy
close it
looks
down,
like a
and he was
W
wrong.
or a
I prefer the letter
A
Q
million
myself.
people would
I
be
mean,
dead now.
you
Instead
own
of
stocks right now,
still
it's great.
204,000
Loving
people
my
is too much.
basket
One
of
person
stocks.
is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again.
I'm
He
having
will
a hard
destroy
time
this
finding
country.
people to
You know,
work.
a lot of people
I'll tell you that.
between drugs and alcohol
It's
and
getting crazy out
depression.
there.
When
And
you
I will
start
say,
shutting it
if-
down, you take
I
a
think
look at
anyone
what's
on the
happening
left
at some
who
of your
wins, they are
Democrat-run
going
states
to
where they
go
have these
back to where we
tough
were February,
shutdowns.
March.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah,
telling
they're
you
not
this
gonna shut
because
down.
they don't want to
Lightning
open it.
speed.
One
They
of them came out last
Every
week. We
business
saw
I
that.
know,
Oh,
every
we're gonna
business
open
owner
up
I
on
know
November
right
9th.
now
Why
is saying that their
November 9th?
business is
Because it's
exploding.
after the election.
Like
They
their
think they're
business is
hurting
just
us
like
by keeping
are
them
exploding,
closed.
you said?
They're hurting
yeah, like
people.
it's just taking off.
People know what to do.
It's just
they can
you
social
know open the
distance, they
floodgates.
can
I think
wash
another
their hands,
round
they
of
can wear
like
masks. They can do whatever they want.
stimulus
But they
needs to
gotta
happen
open these
again.
states up.
It's going to have
When
to
you look
happen.
at
A third,
North Carolina,
a third,
when you look, and these
stimulus
governors
package is
are
gonna
under
have to be
siege.
received.
Pennsylvania,
Probably.
Yeah.
Michigan, and a couple of others.
need to buy a new
You got to
flat
open these
screen,
states
so
up.
yes.
Can
It's
you
not
stop?
fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's
You're
going
gonna get
on with
audited if
divorce.
you keep on talking.
Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it.
Yeah, what would
we
he
don't
have
need
done?
somebody
He
to
would have
come come
shut
in and
everything
say,
down.
let's shut it down.
And he would
All
have been
Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you.
tyrannical about it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
federal government
As
would
I
have
said,
forced all
posing
the
the
states to do
question,
it.
the president
not
says
letting
it's
the
a
states make
D-shaped
the decision.
recovery. You say it's a K-shaped
Here it comes.
recovery. What's the difference?
With the letter K.
There he goes.
Millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion.
Billionaires made
because of his
$300 billion.
tax
That's exactly what he just said.
proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton, and Claymont, and all the
Did he
small
say
towns.
Scranton?
Here he goes. Watch.
Well, he's
I'm
from
telling
Scranton.
you. Watch him.
Oh, okay. I was like, the
This guy
office.
paid
Yeah.
a total of
Yeah, he's from there.
$750 in taxes.
Here we go.
Wait, no, sir, it's
It's
his
the wrong state.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The
No.
fact is that he
you
has
know how
in
much
fact,
time you get
worked
back?
on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in
this is
American
where
history.
If Trump was a great
Secondly,
debater, he would
the
bring up
people who
stats
have
because he's
lost
from
their
Delaware,
jobs
right?
are those
Delaware
people
is
who have been on the
decimated
front
financially,
lines.
and they've been for
Those
the past
people who
40
have been
years,
saving
ever
our
since
lives.
he
Those people
ever
who
took
went out
office,
there dying.
because he let
People
all the
who've been putting themselves
industries
in the
that
way
ran
to
that
make sure
DuPont,
that we could all
and I
try
know
to
this
make
because I have
it.
family in
And
Delaware.
the
He
idea
let them
that he
all
is
run away
insisting
due to tax
that
breaks.
we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America.
Avita, calm
and he
down.
wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up?
with
Why
the
doesn't he
Avita thing
take
again.
care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for
So we're
you
not gonna
all
have a
at
better
home
economy until
in
summer
terms
of
of your health and
2021?
your safety.
That's
Schools.
crazy.
Why aren't schools open?
Or,
because
you know,
it
he could-
costs a
if he
lot
had
of
some
money
good
to open them safely.
debating experience, he'd also say,
they were
you know,
going
we
to
have
give
vaccines
his
for
administration
flu.
were going to give
The
the
flu still
teachers and
exists.
school
It's
students
it's
masks.
very difficult
And then
to
they
explain that
decided,
to the
no,
people.
Yeah,
couldn't
and
do
so
that because it's
difficult.
not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on
Well,
the
we
job
got the
and
PPP
take
funds.
care of the needs of the
$500
American
billion.
people.
That was a big-
So we
that was a
can't
big help
open
for
small
$500
businesses.
billion
Time is
went
up,
to
sir.
small
We're going to
businesses.
get to.
I
We're
have
going
to respond to that.
Well,
I'll say
you
help
both
my
had
business.
2
I'm going
minutes.
to be
sir.
honest. It helped my
Excuse
business, and I'm
me, he
pissed
made
they
a
haven't done
statement.
another one.
They're going to do another
People
one.
want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad
is
what's
good for
happening
him.
in New
Yeah.
York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools
Restaurants
open.
and larger
People
And I'm the
shops
one
in
that brought
Manhattan
back
are
football.
now
By the way, I
bankrupt.
brought back
They've
Big
all
Ten
bankrupt.
football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of
let's-
Ohio are very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going
I
to get
found
back.
out? When he took the
Gentlemen,
phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans
wasn't 2
going
minutes
forward
for
in a
Trump.
moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's
I'm
a
gonna
new
start timing.
report that in 2016, the year you were elected president,
Fact-checking
and
the timer.
2017,
I think he's bringing up the Clinton
your first
thing.
year as president, that you paid
Oh, never mind.
they're bringing the
$750
taxes.
a year in federal income tax.
also
So
gives
he's got
each of
2
those
minutes to
years.
teach tax law.
I
He's
know
got
that
2
you
minutes.
pay
To, he's
I
got
really
2
want
minutes
a
to
lot
teach
of
the
other
tax
taxes.
law.
I'm asking you
I'm
the specific
brilliant.
question.
Thank you.
Is
Let's
it
talk
true
about
that you
that.
paid $750 in federal
See what he
income
says.
taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars.
Sad part is if you
income
read the
tax.
New York article,
And
it
let
does
me
say
just
he
tell you
paid
something.
over like
There
$6
was a story
million.
in one
Yeah.
of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to do, go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely
See,
good.
I wouldn't get into the
And
how
we have
rich I
a
am.
very-
That's always
we
been
have a-
Trump's
I built a
problem.
great
I'm asking you a
company.
specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I'm-
And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go
Yes.
through
Yes.
the laws, and that's
There
what it
you
is.
go.
He passed a
There-
tax
if you
bill
bring up the
that
Clintons,
gave
they
us
were the
all
ones
these
who gave all these
privileges
massive
for
tax breaks.
depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher
That's
makes.
not true.
Is
None of
because
that is
absurd.
true.
He
That's
says he's
absurd.
smart
Such
because
an
he can take
annoying
advantage
point
of the
to
tax
make.
So
code.
absurd.
And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to
See, the
eliminate
funny
the
thing is Trump
tax
never
cuts.
made these.
And I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts.
No, you're
And make
not.
sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help.
Yeah, that's
People
not gonna
out
happen.
there
He
need
keeps on
help.
doing it.
But
He's
why
not
didn't you do it
talking.
over the last 25
The American
years?
people
Because you weren't
are
president.
more
You
savvy
weren't
when it comes to
president
this tax
screwing
stuff.
things
They
up.
they
You were
know
a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice
in
that this
America
guy's not
ever
just sitting here
had.
paying
Come
nothing.
on.
50% of
Let me just say,
Americans
I've
do
done
not even
more
believe that they
in
if they didn't have to pay
47
tax, they
months,
wouldn't
I've
pay
done more
taxes.
than
Like
I know,
it's such a
I know.
large
7
percentage of
years,
people,
Joe.
which is why
We've
it's so
done
funny
things that you
to
never
have the
even thought of,
conversation about that.
including fixing the
And
broken
I also think the
military
American
that you
people are
gave
savvy
me.
enough
Not
to know
only
he didn't
taking
make the
care of
tax
you.
laws that have made
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. He's paying
I'd like
whatever
to
he's
ask you
supposed to
about
pay.
your plans going forward, because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
no.
president,
is
focuses
it?
a lot
I
on
have no idea
big
what it
government, big taxes,
Raising taxes,
big
yep.
spending. I want to focus first on the taxes.
Yep.
You
There you go.
propose more
There you
than
go.
$4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one.
Yeah, okay.
And number
Okay.
two, it would create an additional $1
And he's probably
trillion
gonna wanna
in
raise
economic
the minimum
growth,
wage,
because
too.
it would be about buying American. That we're going to make
Jobs.
the federal government
Not
spend
today, Satan.
$600
Not
billion a year
today.
on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the
Biden
like.
just like
Here's-
And
working
under
out
my
numbers at
proposal,
this point.
we're going to make sure that
Here's,
every penny of that
here's
has to
Biden's
be
job
made
plan.
by a company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going
Jobs.
to eliminate
Trump.
significant numbers
No
of tax. I'm
jobs.
going
No
to make
jobs.
See, that's why we bring
the
props.
corporate tax
The American
28%. It
people
shouldn't be
and
21%.
Joe Biden need props.
You have
I
19
wish that would have been like
91
nationally
companies,
televised right now.
federal-
Is that what you just
in the
did?
Fortune 500 who don't pay a cent in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when
dollars.
you were vice president
because,
with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it-
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed
The
before.
economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
No,
let me-
you can't
let me-
debate that
Mr.
fact.
Yeah,
President,
you
let me
can't.
pick up
No,
on
no.
that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower tax for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had
So
the slowest
what he should-
recovery
what he should mention
since
here, Chris, I don't know, like he's
economic
debating
recovery
him.
since
He
1929.
should mention that
it was
those
the
jobs
slowest
were under
recovery.
minimum
Also,
wage that were
they
actually
took over
created.
something that was down
My
here. All you
jobs
had to do was
actually
turn
were
on the
70%
lights and you
more
pick up a lot.
salary.
But they had the
Well,
slowest economic recovery since
good point, too.
1929. Let me
Yeah.
tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave.
And they're gonna tax
plenty of
401ks.
companies that are already
They've been
they'll
dying
leave for
to
other
tax.
places.
They wanna tax
They will
retirement
leave, and you will
accounts,
have a
They have.
depression. the
They
likes
wanna tax
of which
401ks
you've
so
never
bad.
seen.
Look,
Biden's the
we
one that
inherited
proposed getting rid of the
the
401k,
worst
confiscating
recession
it,
short of a depression
and it
in American
becoming
history.
a government
I was
type
asked
retirement.
To bring it back.
That'll be a
We were able
disaster.
to have
Well,
an
see,
economic
what you just
recovery
said
that
is
created
one of
the
his
jobs
big
you're talking about.
employees, but
We
that's the
handed
beginning
him
of
a
socialism,
booming
Yeah,
economy.
it
taking
is.
over
He
giant
blew it.
pieces
It
of
wasn't
money.
Well, that's
Because
that
there's
income
trillions of dollars
redistribution.
in
That's that income redistribution.
It was the
Because there's
weakest
trillions of
recovery
dollars
since
sitting in
Wait,
retirement
is it fair
plans.
to-
Yeah.
Is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID,
Say
manufacturing went.
what?
Hold on.
Manufacturing went in a hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing.
Yep.
I brought back 700,000
Yep.
jobs.
Yes, he
they
did.
brought back
What
nothing.
he
They
needs to say
gave
is,
up on
I would like you to see
manufacturing.
the
We would not
Hold on, hold on.
Fair.
I'm the guy
He
that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew
They
it.
bailed him out.
And in fact,
Oh, yeah.
That's
they're
not-
going
that's not
Ohio
creating
had the best
jobs.
year it's ever had last year.
talking about
Michigan
Hunter
had
Biden.
the best year they've ever
That
had.
is not
I don't think
Many
we
true.
should
car
talk about
companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great
dollars. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
None of that is true.
Let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't get $3.5 million?
Mr. President,
totally,
President, please.
Totally discredited.
Let's let him answer.
Totally discredited.
It's not
And by the
discredited.
way,
Well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice
He got
President.
$3.5 million.
that is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President,
But,
it's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well,
It
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
use. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
my
Back
son
off,
did
back
not-
off, back off. Let him
Mr.
bury his own
Mr.
grave.
The only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone
Hey.
has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oth.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even
you.
the people under.
He got $3.5 million from
testified-
Moscow.
We get
he
it, Mr.
testified under
President.
oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to
honorably.
know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't
well,
do a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say,
You get
here's the
wait
deal.
a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
tell you,
No. Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President,
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a.
they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
my
coming
family.
He's
or
getting
his
under
family.
Trump's
It's about
skin.
your
Yeah.
family.
They
The
didn't
American
like $3.5
people.
Trump's
million.
He
weakness, if
doesn't.
anyone's
That's
ever
not true.
watched
It
it,
doesn't
is money
want to
and
talk
family.
about.
You bring up
what
those two and
you
they
need.
really get
you,
under his skin.
The American
How
people.
much did you make?
It's about you.
How much did you pay in
That's what we're
taxes? Those
talking
things
about.
matter.
All right, that's
Not
the
about
end.
here.
That's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
I-
He
I-
stood
I-
up.
No,
he stood up.
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you don't
That
get rid of
is
the
you know what, you're-
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
true.
You're on tape doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
true.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but it
on
seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
there we
deal.
go.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask
Chris,
a question
that's
about race, but
in
if
the
you want to
grass,
answer
like you
about
said,
something
Joe,
else,
he's
go ahead.
snake in
But
the grass.
No, he's
I think
not.
that
He's
the
doing.
country
The
would be
president
better
is
served
not
Trump
doing-
needs to
if
back
we
off.
allowed both
He's
people
coming
to
off
speak with
way
fewer
too
defensive.
defensive.
Way
Trump
too
is,
defensive.
Trump is
You,
looking
sir,
horrible.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
There's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago,
Lord.
when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done
also
more
the irony of, like,
for
super
black
old
Americans
white guys
than any
that are really
president,
rich
with
I love
the
it.
answering this.
possible
I love it.
exception
I love it.
of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
Let's listen to the colonials.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for
What is
everyone.
going on here?
equality
I
for
have
the
no idea
whole
what he's
of
saying.
America.
Did we jump into the
We've never
1700s?
accomplished it, but we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, spewing.
You're looking at
and
their
just spewing
veins?
anti-Semitic
I didn't think
bile
we were going
and
back to
accompanied by the Ku
Charlottesville.
Klux Klan. A young woman
I'm
got
not
killed.
surprised.
And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is his
Finish the statement.
Second point I'd make.
Finish the statement with what the
is
president
that
said.
when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division.
I just want to say
this is a man who, in fact, talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been
neither of those
killed
stats I'd ever bring up.
The coronavirus.
It's just
and if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will.
The fact that he
Seems
would
like
even take it there just shows you how far to the left he's
This
gone
man-
and has been
this
pushed
man
by the party.
Is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks
award.
about.
That's what he got.
You have to look at what he did.
When
what
the
he did
Democrats thought he was nice.
Hold on.
Criminal justice
I'm ahead
reform.
I'm ahead of you.
reform.
Listen.
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over
HCBU
your
funding.
opponent to deal with
He
racism?
did a crime bill,
There we
1994,
go.
where you call them super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that
we go.
you've
Said
treated
it, I
the
believe.
African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned,
All red states.
and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military
Should bring out
leaders
the-
and
the
generals.
segregation
Total
in
support.
schools.
He should have kept hitting them back.
racial jungle that he
Every
talked
law
about.
Racial
enforcement
jungle,
group
And
in
then
the
hit
United
Kamala.
States. I have Florida. I have Texas.
Kamala
I
is,
have
like,
Ohio.
awful.
I
Oh,
have
yeah. She's going to get
Excuse
destroyed
me,
with
Portland.
Pence.
The sheriff just came out today, and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you
Trump's
look at
doing good
any
right now.
place you want to
Yes.
look, Seattle,
There's no
they
rebuttal.
heard we
He
were
needs to
coming
look
in
at
the
the camera.
following day, and they put up
Talk
their
to the
hands, and
American
we got
people.
back Seattle. Minneapolis,
I would
we
agree.
got
That's
it
where
back, Joe, because
Joe was
we
mentioning he's
believe in
better
law and
at,
order,
and
but you
Biden's
don't.
better at is kind
The
of
top
connecting.
10 cities and
Got
just about
18
the
seconds,
top
15
40
seconds.
cities are run by
cut
Democrats and in
off.
many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case
That was good. That
decided
was strong.
not to
That was
charge
the
any
best
of the police
he's done, yeah.
with homicide, you
You know
said
why?
it
'Cause
raises
he
the
followed the
question,
freaking
quote,
rules.
Yeah.
whether
Your 2 minutes,
justice could
my
be
2 minutes.
equally applied
Yeah,
in
shut up.
America. Do you believe
And I gave
that there
like
was
10
a
seconds ahead,
separate
and
but
he was
unequal
murdering him.
system
You
of justice
could even tell
for
Biden had
blacks
no
in this
rebuttal
country?
during the whole time.
There's
face
systemic injustice in this country, in education, in work, and in law enforcement, and the way in which it's enforced.
I still
But
can't
look,
get over the tie.
The vast
Biden getting
majority of
sleepy.
police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women.
Uh-oh.
They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples, and when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United
lost half
States is
of
call
What I
want Trump to say is, so
together
you had 50
an
years to
entire
work this
group
out,
of people
and
at the White
easily-
House.
and
easily
well,
50.
everything from
During-
the civil
while you were
rights groups to the
VP,
police officers,
all the
police
riots
chiefs,
started.
and we're going
While
to
you were
work this
VP,
out.
riots started.
We're going to
Yeah.
work this out so we
BLM
change
is
the way
from
in which we have more
2016?
transparency. when these things
2011 is when
happen.
it was
These
created.
Hold on,
cops
guys.
aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful.
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President
did not
Trump,
say
I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And
I thought they were going to go into
do you
criminal justice
believe that
reform.
there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
Is radical,
and he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's just, he's racist.
You just
Critical race theory
I
is
know a lot
horrible.
more about
You
this.
don't
than
know.
he does.
Let's listen to him. Let's listen to him.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only
Who's he
way
talking
we're
about
bring
right
this
now?
country
No idea.
together
All I know
is that
bring
whole, like,
everybody
Trump,
together. There's
or
nothing
just-
we
That whole,
cannot
like,
do
oh,
if
people
we
were
do it
racist against
together.
Irish
We
Catholics
can
and all that
take
stuff
this
like that.
on and we
I mean,
can
who still
change
even
it.
lives in that world?
That's
sort of up a
During
monster
the
slam
Obama
dunk weight.
He's in the
Biden
1950s right
administration,
now.
there was tremendous
He
division.
has no idea what year it
There
is.
was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you still
crimes,
haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crimes.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead,
Yes, I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law
Say
and
a little
order.
bit of order.
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
Justice.
And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're down.
is president of the
Mr. President,
United
you're going
States
to.
of America.
Come on,
Mr.
guys.
President,
Every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And
we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party
I'd
issue.
wanna see
You can
those
bring in a
numbers.
couple of examples,
I
but
would
if
need
you
to
look
see
at
those
Chicago,
numbers.
what's going on in Chicago, where
telling me Tulsa, Oklahoma's on
53
fire?
people
Come
were
on now.
shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime.
Republican
It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He would know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All
know
these dog
suburbs.
whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large
suburbs
integrated.
ever.
There's many
I'm
people
10 seconds
today
ahead of you
driving their
guys.
kids to soccer
Biden
practice and or
opens
to
up a case here,
black and
unfortunately.
white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this
That has
issue of
nothing to do
law
with
and
climate
order,
change.
though,
It's
and
arsenic.
the joint recommendation that came from the
gender reveal
Biden,
parties,
Bernie
that's
Sanders
why
task
that's why
force.
it's in
You
California.
talked about, quote,
The
reimagining
fireworks
policing.
that are launched against HOA
First
policy.
of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control
Did he
of
just
police?
create that question in his head?
what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed
See,
to
look at that
Say
answer.
9/11
Look at that
call.
answer.
As a matter
He
of
just said
fact,
9/11
police,
call.
local police. The only one defunding
No,
his
he's-
budget calls for a $400
His
million
answer was, I
cut in
support the
local
police
law
being able to
enforcement
handle the
assistance.
issues that they're
They
dealt
need
with.
more assistance.
Well,
They need, when they
okay.
show up for a
Okay,
9/11
sure.
call, to have someone with them as a
But that's a
psychologist
political
or
answer.
psychiatrist.
He sidestepped it. He doesn't
said
want
nine-
to.
he
use
said
force
911. He
and
said
be able to talk
9/11.
people down. We have to have community
than
policing like we
911.
had before.
He's
where
not
the
gonna
officers
answer.
Get to know
He's
the
not gonna
people
answer
in
about
the
BLM.
communities.
No.
That's when crime went
knows
down.
better.
It didn't go up. It went down. And so we have to
We'll see what happens when they ask
That's
Trump
not
about
what they're
BLM.
talking about. That's
See what
not what
happens.
they're talking. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Well, you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
Name one law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There
moderator.
are. That's a good
one. That's a clip right
I
there.
want to
one.
get to another subject, which is
That's
the
a clip.
issue of protests in many cities
answer BLM.
that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon,
That was risky for
especially,
Trump
we
to do
had
that
That was
because
very
even
risky.
if one
straight
little
days
mom and pop
of
police
protests,
department had endorsed
which
him,
I
it
think
would.
you would agree. You talk about
Yeah, but
peaceful
he
The
doesn't-
protests.
Scranton,
He
PA.
can't even
Oh, the
riot.
Scranton, PA police
Vice
department.
President,
right.
I mean,
you
that's
The
say
fact that the
people
unions
who
aren't
commit
endorsing him.
No, they're
crimes
not.
Have you
should
seen
be
the
held
office? They endorse
accountable.
me.
Hey,
The question I
Reno,
have, though,
I think
is
the
as
Reno
the Democratic
National.
nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said,
Isn't it
hey,
stuff?
you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now.
Oh, God.
Blah, blah,
Former
blah.
vice
Like,
president.
that stopped him
I've made
from
it
anything.
clear.
I
I've
thought
made it
he
clear
was
in my
the
public
representation of
statements
the
that the
Democrats.
violence
Right.
should be
That's the point that
prosecuted.
Chris Wallace just
It should be
made. Yep.
prosecuted. And anyone who
Biden
commits
really
it
But
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the
Hopefully
people,
Trump
the leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to
Because
bring
they-
in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
Here's the
But
thing.
I sent in the
I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the
that-
young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3
Miss
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
him.
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the
good
way,
one.
you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the,
All right.
But here's the point.
Go ahead,
The point
sir.
is
Did
that
she?
that's what he is keep
Kellyanne
trying to
Conway?
rile everybody
Somebody
up.
did, but I don't know if
He
it
doesn't
was
wanna
her.
calm
I'm
things
sure it was
down.
in the context
Instead
of like,
going in
if y'all
and talking
keep
to
letting the
people and
riots
saying,
happen, it
let's
just
get
helps
everybody
Trump.
together,
Right,
figure
right.
out how to
Yeah.
deal
Not
with
that he
this.
wants it.
No,
What's
it's
he doing?
political. It's
He
just
pours
political analysis.
gasoline on
Yeah, yeah.
fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer,
We're
sir.
losing jobs,
You
guys.
have repeatedly
This is-
I
criticized.
have to answer his
jobs.
statement.
We're losing jobs.
You have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
You have
just 1
repeat. No,
second.
you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would
This
love
is killing
to
jobs.
I would love to end
You know,
law
if you want to
enforcement.
switch seats,
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no.
in the
I'm-
National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no
Trump,
problem.
stop
But they don't want to
fighting with
accept
the
the National
monitor.
Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
It's a simple question.
Are you prepared to specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
That was a softball.
This is a left-wing.
Go ahead.
All they had to do was say
reaction.
You got it.
He just handed him up a home run.
His FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're
When a
moving.
bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no idea.
Antifa is a dangerous,
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and
you ought to be
Biden
careful
records.
with them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is
they've done
generally
it
a
in
referendum on
Portland.
his record.
Yeah.
But
They
Vice
pretty
President
much
Biden,
overthrown
you
the
like
mayor
to quote
there.
one of your
Had
dad's
to make a move.
sayings,
he had
which
to
is
move
don't
because of
compare
it.
me to the
Oh,
almighty,
right, she had to move, yeah.
compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative.
a gentleman
Looking
moved too. One of the other mayors.
At both of your
Right.
records, I'm going to ask each
Seattle
of you,
is a female.
why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment,
Yeah, you guys,
President Trump, you
you're
go
about to
first.
bring up
2
the Hillary
minutes.
hoax.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things.
I love Space Force.
A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy,
hate that number.
I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
That's what I wanted.
Looking at both of your records,
That's what I wanted.
why should voters elect
okay.
you president
He did okay.
as opposed to President
Biden
Trump?
jumps
You have
in
2
here
minutes
and it's
uninterrupted.
really
Under this president, we
anti-Trump.
become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being
recession?
weaker, the fact is that I've gone.
Well, caused by the
believes that.
coronavirus?
Nobody
made it
believes
clear to
that.
him we're not gonna
Everybody
take any of his
knows that
stuff.
it was
He's
good times.
Putin's puppy. He
Yeah.
still
Until
refuses
earlier-
to even
until
say
the
anything
earlier
to
this
Putin
year.
about
And then it was
the
the
bounty
coronavirus.
on the heads of American soldiers.
Who's
You
blaming
said
the
that
president
he-
for having to shut down the
And by the
economy?
way,
You don't remember
Son,
Trump worked with China to
your
make the
campaign
coronavirus.
agreed to both
That was in
sides
the New
would
York
get
Times
2-minute
article.
answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and Why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question. Go ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch.
No way you can
And with
say,
regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son,
everybody knows
the way
the
you
violence
talk
comes
about
from the
military,
protests. Everybody
the way
knows
you
that.
talk about
This
them
isn't
being
happening.
losers and being and
This is
and-
happening
and-
because of the
just being
protests,
suckers.
happening in the
My
cafes, happening in
son
the restaurants.
Was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got
angry.
the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot,
Oh,
and
this
the
was a
people
plan.
left behind there were heroes.
This was a planned
and I
point.
resent
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking
I'm
about
talking about my son, Bo Biden.
You guys are
I don't
behind,
know.
but I
I don't
thought
know,
it's
Bo. I know Hunter.
conspicuous.
Hunter
You
got
guys
thrown.
here. You
Hunter
guys are
got
way
thrown
here.
out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
my son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home,
Nepotism
had a
much?
drug problem. He's overtaken
Oh,
it.
Lord.
He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
Now
Why
explain
was he
proud of my
given
spousal
son.
tens of
cheating.
millions
All
of
right.
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions
Twice.
of dollars. That is
Tens of
totally
millions of
that's
dollars.
been
With his
totally
wife and then with his brother's wife.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a
I know, but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, great.
from the
Let's talk
mayor
about
of Moscow,
Let's talk
That is
about
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk
every
about
other
climate
report in
change.
DC.
So would I.
Okay.
Whoever's
The
running
forest
Trump's
fires in the
cameras
West are
bothering the
raging
hell
now.
out of
It's
me.
not
Forest
centered.
fires.
It's
Millions
not
of
centered.
God,
They
it's
have
on purpose. It's
displaced
on purpose.
hundreds
Conspiracy.
of thousands of people.
Conspiracy.
When state
Feel like I
officials
missed
there
camera the whole
blamed
night.
the fires
There we
on
go.
climate
Only
change,
you-
Mr.
only
President,
you
you said,
can
I don't
prevent
think
forest fires
the
by
science
not
knows."
setting forest
Over your
fires.
4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord.
Where's Smokey the
you have
Bear when
rolled
you
back
need
a
him?
number of Obama environmental
He died in
records.
the last
He
forest
died in
fire.
a forest fire,
Do
didn't
you
he?
believe
In California.
about the science
That's how
of
things
climate
work.
change?
Circle
and
of life.
what will you
It was
do
unfortunate.
in
It
the
was
next
just
4
during
years
a,
to confront it?
gender
I want
reveal, but
crystal
whatever.
clean water and air. I want beautiful,
Was it a
clean
boy?
air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed
Joe
our
looking at?
businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission.
He's always
if you
done
look
that.
at
Remember.
the Paris
District.
Accord, it was a disaster from
Joe
our
Biden.
standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to
Oh,
everything
yes.
else.
That is
the
definitely
forest
true.
floors are loaded up with trees,
Yep.
dead trees that are years
They
old,
won't
and they're
do
like
any
tinder
deforestation.
and
They won't- they
leaves
won't
and
clean
everything
it up.
else. You drop a cigarette and then the whole
Evidently,
forest burns down.
They will
You've
not
gotta have
manage- they will
forest
not
management.
manage
What do you
their-
You've gotta have
believe?
their
cuts.
What do you
woodlands.
believe about the science of climate change?
Now both cameras
I
are off
believe
center.
that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human
Oh, here we go.
pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to
There
an
we
extent,
go.
yes. But I also
a good
think
answer.
we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's
California's on
burning.
fire.
California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management,
As
good
much money as
forest
they put in
management,
California,
you
you would
wouldn't be
think they'd
getting
figure
those
out a
calls.
sprinkler
You know, in Europe,
system.
they live their
California's
forest cities. They're called
technically
forest
bankrupt,
cities.
so
They maintain
technically-
their
and
forests.
he knows
They
he's not winning
manage
that
their
state
forests.
anyway, so
Because they're
It's
spending it on their
the
needle
head of
sharing
a
program.
major country. It's a forest
No, they-
And there are millions of
we should
homeless
serve-
people.
They
we
won't
have
let- they
trees
won't
that
let
are far
anybody
more-
touch
they
anything.
ignite much easier.
You just
than
can't
California.
touch
Right.
There
a
shouldn't
bush.
be that
The
problem. I
environmentalists
spoke
will
with the
br-
governor
yeah,
about it.
they're-
We're
They've
getting along
gone-
very well
I'm
with the
very
governor.
surprised.
They've
But
gone
I said, you know,
overboard.
at some
I'm very
point,
surprised where Trump is
you
going with
can't
this. I'm
every
actually
year
very
have
surprised.
hundreds
I am
of
too. I am
thousands
too,
of
but he
acres
knows he
of
can't win
land just
California,
burned
no
to
matter
the
what
ground.
happens, so he can
That's
just trash
burning
it.
down
You can win
because of a
everything
lack of
outside
management.
Sir, if
the
you
coast.
believe in the science
Orange
of
County.
climate change, Why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Okay, got it, Chris. Let him answer.
Because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old.
See, Trump's in his zone because he's talking business right now.
Right.
If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
the
$3,500.
I'm so surprised.
No, but you would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to
the
President's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels
he
to generate
diffused
electricity
the implication
by
that somehow he was
2035,
anti-environment.
and zero
Right.
Also,
net emission of
what
greenhouse
is a green
gases by
job? I have no
2050.
idea what that is.
Oh my
The
gosh.
president
Get it.
says
Yeah, don't get me
a lot
started.
of these
Kermit the Frog, that's a green job.
cost millions of
You're about to
He's
hear.
absolutely
Is the
wrong,
vest
number
green?
one.
I
Number
don't
two,
understand.
If in fact, during our administration, the
We're
Recovery
gonna
Act, I
have
was
a
able to-
million
I was in
new
charge of
green
It's when you wear the
down
green vest at
cost
Walmart.
That's
of
what trillions of
energy
dollars. Just
to
say
cheaper
everything's
than or
free
as
and we're
cheap
making
as
billions of
coal,
dollars.
Yeah, because they're
Like
going to
gas
tax. They're going to tax
oil.
401ks.
I got a
That's what they're
green
gonna do.
job for anybody that wants it. It's called My Backyard Needs Mowed.
That's what I'm thinking.
So
A
if
green
anybody's
job.
looking for a green job,
Is
I got
someone
one
gonna
for you.
Is someone getting
renewable
paid a
energy,
different
number
color
one.
money than
Number
me?
two,
I don't understand.
we're going to make
Well,
sure
this green
that
job
we're
don't
able
pay.
to
You
take
do it for the environment.
federal fleet.
You do it
federal fleet that's
to improve the environment, which just so
electric
happens to be
vehicles.
on a quarter
Making sure
acre
that
The
in my
environment
neighborhood.
around your house.
500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future.
I love
We're
how
gonna
he takes
build
credit
an economy
for
that, in fact,
Obama's
is going
stuff.
to provide for the ability
I mean,
us
don't
to
you think
take
he gets a
4
little?
million
He
buildings
gets to play
and make
that,
sure
right?
that they,
He gets
in
to
fact,
play with
I
the
mean, he was
sand
there.
that was in.
What does
Because he was-
what does he do?
Because
What did he
he was
lead
vegan.
on?
Because he was
significantly
vegan.
less
That's
gas and
politician
oil because
101.
the
It
heat
wasn't his
He was in the
policy.
room.
so many
He gets
things
to
that
say
we
he was
can
in the
do
room.
now.
They weren't his
create
policies, though.
Thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good-paying jobs, not $15 an hour.
I'd like to
but
publicly state that
prevailing
these
wage
new
by
emission
having a
standards have
new
actually ruined
infrastructure
cars.
That in fact,
Yeah,
is green.
they have.
And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord.
Why in the world is there
I will
a
join the Paris
4-cylinder
Accord because
C300
with us out of it,
Mercedes?
Look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk
That is
about
just
You
not
have,
right.
you have two
no-
catalytic
no
converters on your
relationship
car
with
that
foreign
each are probably
policy.
about $1,000
Brazil,
to
the
replace.
rainforests
We also have,
of
like-
That are
Brazil
there
being
for one reason
torn
and one
down,
reason
are
only,
being
and it's
ripped
just to
down.
reduce a tiny
More
amount of
carbon
emissions.
is
Also,
absorbed
all
in
of those
that
car
rainforest
companies
than
were
every bit of
lying
carbon
about
that's
their
emitted in the
emission
United
standards.
States.
Yeah, they're all
the
lying
whole
about
time.
it anyway.
Doing
Yeah,
something
they're all
about
cooking the
that.
books.
I was
Yeah.
gathering
But if I
up,
put a
making sure
Civic
we had
muffler
the
on that puppy,
countries in
man,
the
I
world
sound
come up with
boss,
$20
yo.
billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop.
Okay, this has been more than 2 minutes.
tearing
We
down
make fuel efficient
the forest.
vehicles, and the first
if
thing
you
young
don't,
kids
then you're
do is
gonna
take
have
the muffler off
significant
and
economic
put
What about the argument?
They're
that
making cars
President
great
Trump
again.
alter the
basically says
suspension,
that you
right?
have to balance
Change the tires.
environmental interests and economic interests.
We did stuff
and
like
he's
that
drawn
when I was a
his
kid.
line.
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, makes
feel like
sure that
Joe's
he
going
wants
on
to
for
make
like
sure that
7
methane's
minutes.
not
This
a
is
problem.
a-
We can,
yeah, we
you
need
can
to
now
care
emit more
about what he
methane
said
without it
during
being
the
a
whole
problem.
time.
Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have
Now we're
mileage
talking
standards for
now we're talking
automobiles that
about cow
exist now.
farts.
This is the guy who
Hey,
says
that's
that
a big problem.
Methane.
The fact
in
that-
square states.
So it's all true. And here's
He's
the deal.
talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to
the
rip
Biden
down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous,
is not-
where
It's true.
airplanes are out of
minute.
business,
That's
where
a-
it's a
two-car
ridiculous
systems are
plan.
out, where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's
true.
not true either, right?
Not
this
true.
is a $100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if it were
not
gone.
That's
the
not
case.
true.
All right,
We
let me,
make
let me,
about
let me, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually, wait a
$25
minute,
trillion
sir. I
a
actually
year.
have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds.
Are they still doing
like
the 2-minute thing?
a lot of
What's
money
going
and
on?
hurt the economy.
Are you keeping count?
No, I'm 20 seconds ahead of you guys.
But let him finish, sir.
You keep on speaking into the future.
I just want to give you
the fact is, it's going to create
of what's about to
millions of
happen.
good-paying jobs. And these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of.
Biden,
it's going to
there's
make
gonna be
the
60
economy
new
much
million
safer. Look how much we're
60
paying now
new million
to deal with
jobs.
the
Just so you
hurricanes.
know, I think there's
to
only like
deal
3
with, by the way,
million
he has an
unemployed
answer for
people. But
hurricanes. He
whatever.
said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that at all.
He did say
You made it up.
and here's the deal.
You make up a
we
lot of things.
we are going to be in a
Cameraman for
position
Trump
where
is
we
a
can
Biden
create
supporter. I'm going to call that out right now.
hard, good
He has not been
jobs
centered
by making
once
sure the
this
environment
entire
is clean and we
debate.
all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa.
Because
that
weather
didn't
has
happen
not-
before. They're because of
That didn't happen before?
warming. We make up 15%
We have an entire movie
of the
called
world's
Twister
problem.
that would
We,
take
in
out
fact,
entire
but
towns.
The rest of the world, we've got to
Trump's
get them
serving
to
up
come
a
along. That's why we have to
cold
get back into.
baller.
I'm going to
back
throw
into
something at you,
the
Nick.
Paris
if you
Accord.
keep on.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute,
predicting
Chris.
the
So why
future.
didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion,
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild every.
If he knew anything about, if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen.
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done
said
with this segment.
he
Trump.
called the
Mr.
military
Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
That's true.
bastards.
Please,
did
He
say
said
it.
Stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that
play
to
it.
the
Stop.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead. Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself. But and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal
will do.
Is this
Green
going to
New
11
Deal
o'clock or
will
10:30?
pay for itself as we move forward.
Oh, my
We're
gosh,
not
no,
going
it
to build
won't.
plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical
AOC.
left.
I support
Oh, you
the
don't.
Biden plan
Up.
that I put forward.
He's just lost
The
AOC
Biden
support.
plan, which is
Biden
different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As
here we
we
go.
meet tonight, millions of Americans
not gonna be
are
fun.
receiving
I have
mail-in
someone
ballots
else's
or
ballot,
going to
you know,
vote
got
early.
sent to my
I
house.
think that's so
How
funny that you
confident-
posted
No,
that.
you didn't.
Yes,
I
you
don't-
did.
That this
Seriously.
will be a fair election.
How
and
is this
what
not
are
front
you
page news
prepared
on,
to
like,
do
ABC?
over the
Reddit.
next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote.
I think you tried to
His
say,
own
I will vote.
Director,
I
But
thought
it
he
sounds
said
like
Iowa.
Iowa
FBI
vote.
director says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way.
Yeah,
he
it's called
sits behind the
absentee
Resolute
ballot.
desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to
Trump
make sure
should
they can
deliver his
socially
ballot
distance.
by hand.
The polls are open
I think he
on
already
time.
did. SOE.
and
I think he
the
might have
polls
already
stay
voted.
open until
He
the
should.
votes are counted. And this is
You're not
all
gonna hand
about
out-
trying to
you're not gonna hand
dissuade
pizza
people
out to the
from
rest of us?
voting because he's trying to
look
scare
at
people
that.
into thinking that it's not
Broke
going to be
the third
legitimate.
wall.
Show up and vote. You will
Yeah.
determine the
Bring
outcome
pizza
of
to
this
the rest of
election.
us.
Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early.
Please
if you're
make
able
the
to vote
mistake.
in person, vote in person.
make
Vote
the
whatever
mistake.
way is the best way for
Well, no,
you.
vote often.
Because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand.
What is he talking
you
about?
You have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You get 4 more years of these lies.
This is not a bad closer.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
That's not a bad close.
When I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup.
Oh, yeah.
They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country, and we've caught them. Oh, wow. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it, too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster.
All right, here we go.
A solicited ballot.
About ballots. We'll see what happens.
Okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting. You're asking. They send it back. You send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country.
That's crazy.
There's fraud. They found them in creeks.
Crazy.
They found some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election. In theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump.
It's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud.
Another reminder that I have somebody else's ballot that was sent to my house.
31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? If there are millions of ballots going out
right now, what you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote,
but
like they used to in the old.
Millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
There's a
video of someone throwing it into a dumpster, a box of mail-in ballots.
Decade or more, 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you.
Even if you go back 200 years, how did people vote?
What we're saying is, it has to be a postmark.
But that's the problem. When they just send out ballots without you requesting it,
if it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th,
the SOE, they don't have up-to-date records. They're sending ballots to dead people. They're sending ballots to people that do not live there.
I want to continue with you on this.
The bigger problem.
President Biden,
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes
votes are out there.
No, excuse me.
if all these ballots are out there, it's going to cause a major problem because people are going to send them in.
Has not been fraud historically.
My
it has
fear
been
is when we talk about mail-in ballots,
sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity.
If you see mail-in ballots at like a 3 to 1, one side or the other, I don't care what side it is, you call fraud the second you see it. Because you go, it's been 50-50 for 4 years running, 8 years running.
No one can call fraud. The moment we have that conversation, it's going to become a problem.
You're supposed to have an
affidavit. The problem is
you didn't know you have
the election is over on the 3rd. The SOEs and the Democratic Party is like, hey, we're down a few thousand ballots in Philly, and they've got till the 7th to get their ballots.
That's right.
Because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots
I have a final
sending
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already there's been
fraud.
Now, mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. And the final question is, in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is. It could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the
I want to tell you what
new
I think
president
Trump
is.
should answer, but I
won't.
First,
we'll talk about.
Finally, for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And
we know
will
who's
you
not
pledge
staying
tonight
calm.
that you will not declare victory
like in 2016
until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to.
Chris is egging them on.
These people aren't equipped to handle it.
That's not.
Number one. Number two, they cheat.
What are you going to do?
They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal.
Okay.
That's the difference between a politician and a non-politician.
Ballots in some states can't even be opened.
Answer the question and then make your case.
But he just
take time to do it. And by the way,
he just boxed himself in and said he would.
They've been voting.
He would wait
by ballots,
and he wouldn't declare victory. Biden just said he wouldn't declare victory
in effect
on election night.
And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not?
I wish Trump
why
would
is
say.
it for them?
But it doesn't matter actually if he said that, right?
Fraudulent.
It doesn't matter if he told the truth.
I wish Trump would be like, I'm going to be up by 100 electoral votes.
They're still going to call.
million votes anyway.
If Trump wins, they're still going to call him to question the election.
No matter what is going to happen. Mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot.
Gentlemen,
come on.
You say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating. In the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in, we want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this.
All right,
we're going to go ahead and get out of that. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching this special edition of The Yard Sign. Johnny Torres with you, as always. Thank you to Joe Wicker, Aníbal Cabrera. We got Jeffrey in the background, Nick hanging out. It was like Chris said, this is certainly an interesting debate. I wouldn't say there was a clear winner, but there certainly was not any type of I wouldn't say it was Trump's best night. I wouldn't say he did terrible, but he didn't do great either. And so they kind of touched on a lot of things, but again, right out of the gate, came off very defensive. It's one thing to go after your opponent in a debate. It's a whole nother thing to repeatedly just stomp on the moderator. And regardless of who that person is, it's just, your hardcore, Trump supporters are going to obviously blame Chris Wallace, and they're going to, take him to town. But honestly, there were plenty of opportunities where the president, all he had to do was sit back, and he didn't.
Yep.
He kept attacking. He came off very defensive. And I don't think it really helped him. And honestly, I think it actually made Biden, look at least like, okay, he may be in the shape that he needs to be in for this campaign. What do you guys think?
Well, you figure the expectations for Biden were so low going into this. I think not just for Republicans, but for Democrats, right? I don't think they had.
Yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of uncertainty as to how Biden was going to perform.
So when you consider the fact that even Democrats were very uncertain about how Biden was going to do, I have to say at a minimum it's a tie. Trump came out swinging, like you said. He started sparring with the debate moderator, so now he's debating 2 people instead of 1. And because he didn't adhere to some of the timelines, that starts getting frustrating to people. So I would say, Trump didn't do as well as he should have in the beginning. Started doing, kind of got his groove, got his feet under him, got his groove going through the middle of it, and then kind of started doing the same thing towards the end. So at best, I would call it a tie.
I have to agree, and I think I'm actually going to give it more to the Biden camp.
Yeah.
In regards to the back and forth. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, we all knew that the bar was so low for Biden that as long as he lasted through the debate, they're going to call it a victory.
Yep. And that's what he did. And he did. He was able to do 90 minutes. And I know I'm not trying to be like I told you so, but the other night I said Biden has been a politician for 47 years. Yeah. He's debated many, many times. How many times has he ran for president? These debates aren't that different from when from the 80s and 90s even, and so he knew what he was doing and he prepared, and I think Biden did about as good as he's gonna do.
I don't think we're gonna see anything better than
he won't do better than that. No.
I think this is as best as they're gonna get. I think
that's Biden's best. Yeah,
I think Trump will get better with the debates as time progresses, because then either he sees that he didn't do that good of a job tonight, or he sees that he needs to get better at it. Now, knowing a little we know about the president, he's probably going to do it somewhat in the middle, but you can tell that he had maybe 5 or 6 points that he wanted to hit and keep on hitting, and that's what he did. He kept on hitting. And
if you think about it, if all Trump does is really 2 things, I think he runs away with the next one. Don't be so defensive all the time, and don't debate the moderator. If he just sticks to the timeline.
Well,
in terms of preparation, he had some great points. Really touted the record where it counted. Really kind of pushed back. Where I think he starts to, kind of lose grip is where he starts repeating himself. When he gets into that mode where he's like so worked up, he's repeating himself, I think people realize, okay, he's defensive, he's getting angry. But when he knew his numbers, when he knew his successes, Biden was speechless.
Yeah. When Trump started talking business, to me, I saw a different person. It's like, because he goes into that businessman mentality of, this is what was happening, this is what we did about it, and this was the outcome. And when you start laying things out like that, it made him look in command of the situation and successful in his role as president. But there was only one good time that happened, and maybe a couple of little ones or something. The rest of it was just
Law and Order was interesting. That it was more for Trump.
Pounded that one a little too hard, but you could tell that Biden couldn't go there, and I think that was very revealing. I think Biden, as much as he tried, he realized he couldn't bring himself to say that he supports law enforcement, he supports law and order, and I think that's a huge signal to the campaign that they need to keep hitting that message. And also the fact that again the economy was at a record-breaking point, into March, and then when coronavirus hit, again, I mean, it devastated every economy globally, and I think we were saying, Joe, I mean, the average voter, I think, understands that. They realize that there's not really much that can be done. Now it's a matter of, can we see enough of an economic recovery from here to November? Right.
Well, there will be. I mean, it's a month. There'll be no more legislation, right? The Democrats just aren't. They're not gonna.
Yeah, we won't. They're not gonna do anything. We won't see another package.
Exactly. When the Republican and Democrat, and it's sad to say this, but when there's truly bipartisan legislation getting passed, it means one of two things. I mean, either we're all about to get screwed somehow, which is I think probably a lot of it, or there's an issue that they're both getting pressure from their base to solve,
do something.
So they decide, like gentleman's agreement, hey, let's not politicize this. Let's do something, get it done, pass it. You don't declare victory, I don't declare victory. We just move on. And quite frankly, that's what PPP was. That's what the small business protections that they put forward in the CARES Act and everything involved in helping out the COVID situation, because both parties understood that they had constituencies that were hurting in all sorts of different ways, and they passed legislation quickly, but that was it. And then they were like, okay, now the election's getting close. We're going to our corners, and we're not going to do anything to help each other, and that's where we're at now. And nothing's going to get done.
Also, something that no one is even talking about, because
they had those. A lot of the, sorry, just really quick, but those people had primaries to win.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. No, that's a good point.
And once the primaries were over, now they're good. Now they can stall.
That's a good point. I was too generous. It was actually much more self-interested. They all had elections to win.
Yep. Also, funding the federal government was pushed until November. They passed a spending bill to allow for it to continue to go. That's the thing. No one talks about it.
But the people don't care whether the federal government's got money to operate.
But we're having the conversation about when the federal government wants to get something done, they do it quickly. They get it done as soon as possible. Yeah. Now you're watching the politicization of people struggling to be able to pay bills and be able to do other things.
The sad part is
they tried to do in September.
The sad part is that pain and suffering. And Jeffrey brought this. I'm gonna bring Jeffrey in on this. Maybe Jeffrey can explain it better than I can.
Turn the mic towards you.
But I'd really like Jeffrey to maybe help explain this to us better. But the bottom line is, Jeffrey, is what were we saying, that if pain works, then it's going to teach politicians to do that again?
Yes, if people are hurting and the Democrats win, right? Everybody will know that once the American people are suffering, it's good for politics. Mm-hmm. It's good to defeat the opponent. So we're going to get more of this. Of this pandemic, we're going to get more of this.
It's pushed the pain threshold.
Yeah. So Jeffrey's point is, and I Jeffrey, I think you're on point there. I mean, what Jeffrey's basically saying is that if this is successful, I mean, let's go beyond who you want to win. Forget who you really want.
Oh. Something went off.
I don't know my mind.
Okay,
there we go.
Forget who you really want to win. The sad thing is that if the American people suffering causes Joe Biden, who is a pretty bad candidate, to win an election, it's going to teach politicians across the board that the way you can win an election is for the people to be hurting and suffering.
Yep.
And that's a dangerous road to go down.
We've seen countries go down that
route. That's a terrible road. I mean, I don't know. And Jeffrey, I don't know if you've thought about it anymore. I mean, are there some countries that you know of off the top of your head that have kind of went down that road? I mean,
I mean, has support waned for the Maduro regime somewhat? But I mean, they're manipulation. They're still manipulating elections to an extent,
and it's not enough to overthrow the government, or motivate the military.
So that's maybe the most extreme case, at least in our hemisphere, that you can point to and be like, look, this pain thing could lead to long-term empowerment.
Yeah, but the American society does not see that as an issue. You know who sees that as an issue? The Latin community, because they are the closest community to that kind of issue happening to their home countries. Now, and I'm going to say it, white suburbia has no idea about that, nor do they care about what's happening in Venezuela or even Argentina and some other places, because they don't care, because they don't know.
In Colombia, like in the last century, right? Most recently Venezuela, so Chile in the 70s, right? So if we make it that way, it's gonna be bad here.
Used to the things that they did was they scared you, right? So every election, and Biden's already been doing this, they try to scare seniors that the Republicans going to take away your Social Security, or they're going to try to cut your Medicare. They try to scare young people by talking about student loans and lack of jobs and education and all that. They try to scare white middle class women. They break everybody down, and you can see them doing it in this campaign. They're targeting. They targeted the veterans 2 weeks ago. With this bullcrap saying that Trump doesn't respect veterans or whatever. They've targeted seniors by saying that Trump wants to cut Social Security and Medicare, and they just keep now they're targeting your common American who pays taxes every year with this tax stuff. They're trying to hit each and every demographic to try to erode support because, and I'm closing this up here, but they're trying to look at each demographic that Trump has support from, because no one's really voting for Biden. They're just not voting for Trump. And so the way you get more votes if you're Biden, you can't really get more support for your positions, but what you can try to do is erode Trump's support in these different segments, and that's what they're doing. And they're doing a drip campaign, and it's going to be happening every single week for the next month. And the worst case scenario is what Jeffrey said, is that all those scare tactics, those may work, they may not, but if not scaring people but actually hurting people helps you win an election, then that sets a precedent that would be devastating for this country, whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Well, not only that, and this is something that, again, is not being answered out there, which is how exactly did the New York Times get these tax documents?
How did they get them?
But that's irrelevant. That's not that doesn't matter. I get it. We're political people, so we're going to care, but the American people don't care. They just want to hear what's going on.
That Trump's lawyer has been out there just selling his soul, it seems like, right? Because well, no, seriously, because you see leftist organizations quoting him, saying that he is a source for this information. And then you've got Tucker Carlson, who's got tapes of him and Cuomo. I mean, this guy Cohen, man, he's got video cameras on him or something going all around it. I mean, he's just I guess he's trying to get himself out of more trouble or something.
At the end of the day, the New York Times had the tax records, the alleged tax reports.
Yeah, how did they get
for
them?
months?
How did they get them?
It's not like they had it a few weeks ago.
You got it from an employee.
Exactly. It's not about whether
it doesn't matter.
It's not about whether or not people care. It's about why did this come to the surface?
And the Trump
administration. This is the October surprise.
And Trump has to win. And Trump has to win election to then be able to have Attorney General Barr go do an investigation to find out, because now they've got to go track all the servers and the emails. They've got to find out they have to find out who accessed the database, who actually had access to Trump's taxes.
At the end of the day, the coalition that got Trump elected is not going to be the coalition that gets him elected this time around. When it comes to the African American vote, the Latino vote, even urban voting is starting to increase into it that Republicans have never had in the past. So what's happening now, and I agree with your analysis that they are attacking the Trump base from the last election, but they're not doing it for this election, which would be what the Achilles heel is.
So you're thinking that there's a group of voters out there you're thinking that the Biden campaign is targeting traditional groups of voters, seniors, military, middle America, and you're saying there's this other group of voters that are new.
No, I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is that the coalition that got Trump elected, which was over 65, suburbia, and suburbia is what got Trump elected. That is no longer going to be the bulk of what gets Trump elected this time around. What's going to get Trump elected is the minority groups that are coming on board. And
I think that's going to help, but I don't think it's going to replace that vote.
I don't think it's going to replace, but it is going to. It's broadening the base.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be significant.
I know people don't. You know, I mean, I don't know how sensitive. I don't know how detailed we want to get into the numbers here, but look at it like this though. If blacks represent 13% of the country, right? And then you have, you're already getting 20% or whatever it is, not even that much. And then you double that. Okay, so if you're getting 15 and you go to 30, okay, what does that really represent though? Does that even represent 1%? In addition to all the rest of the votes, that's my point.
But you're talking about large population. Remember,
same thing with Hispanics.
60 million Americans did not vote in the last election. So there's a huge portion of the electorate that does not vote,
and the bulk of those people will not vote again.
Yeah, and so that's what I think the Trump administration is trying to get into its points, that they're expanding the black vote, they're expanding into the Latin vote. Again, if we get anything above 13%, it becomes an
Trump
issue.
Getting a bunch of black votes in Philadelphia is not going to change Philadelphia.
But let's change the state.
All right, but time out. Let's get this back to what it's supposed to be about, which is the debate. Okay, because Hector makes a great point here. Mainstream media predictably going to credit Biden with winning. And look, I said if you had to declare a winner,
if you had to declare a winner, you got to give it to him.
It was Biden. Of course, he's saying, in the case of Venezuela, people here don't want to know about it because the American people are tired of sending men and women to fight, kill, die for countries that can't get themselves together and get rid of the regime that oppressed them. And it's true.
Now that was not mentioned. That wasn't mentioned.
No, they didn't get into. They didn't get any of the. They didn't get into foreign policy at all.
Foreign policy.
No. So that must be another debate.
Yeah.
But turn it a little bit more, Tori.
Yes, but what people that don't want foreign intervention forget that Venezuelans will come here then if they're starving.
But liberals would be happy with that.
You're saying if the United States is not involved in foreign affairs, then those citizens will just come here. Then
if they don't have nothing to eat in Venezuela, and if there's mass starvation, where those people are going to come here?
Let me ask you this.
I don't agree with that point. And the reason why I'm sorry to say this, but I don't agree with that point. If you want to change Venezuela, it only changes either with the Americans dropping bombs, and even then it doesn't guarantee change, or the people of Venezuela themselves rise up and change the government. And you know how you do that is you overthrow the government with the military. Until the military of Venezuela changes what they're doing, until they stop getting the paycheck, they are never going to allow the government of Venezuela to change. And that is something that people don't understand.
Well, because the military essentially is somewhat in power.
Yeah. Well, no, the military is what holds up the government. The moment the military doesn't get a paycheck, they let it fall. What do you think happened in Egypt?
Well, my question for Jeffrey though is that such a bad thing? If we're going to bring in 1 million immigrants every year anyway. And most of those people are coming from Mexico because we border Mexico. But, I know as an employer, I've always looked at it like if you're coming from a communist country, Eastern European, former Soviet bloc, places like Haiti, Venezuela, Cuba, most of those immigrants, man, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Those are the Americans you want. Of
course. I think we can use a couple of Venezuelan voters here. Of course.
Those are the people you want in this country. They're ready to be American, and all they need is the opportunity. So is that really a problem then? I mean,
you know what? No. But like look at Honduras. Like in Honduras, it's happening.
Well, that's the thing though. But I mean, you can look in Colombia and say, look, Colombia is doing a pretty decent job at kind of running its own situation there, but you still got hundreds of thousands of Colombians coming to the United States.
Didn't Colombia have to get their drug thing under control? Was that?
Well, that was like in the 80s and 90s.
That was the 80s and 90s.
You know, and then the problem was that the previous president was pretty much in the bag with know the drug lords and
they had
basically
to clean it up.
Well, they gave them a position in the government, and they gave them a peace deal, which absolved them of any responsibility for anybody. Yeah,
they got amnesty.
Right, exactly.
Just to stop the war, basically.
Right, exactly. And but my point is that despite the fact that things are somewhat normal there and under control, like they still come anyways.
Yeah.
You know, it's and especially the condition that Venezuela's in. I think even if they were to overturn Maduro, I think because of the reconstruction that needs to take place from every perspective, I think those people would still leave the country because there's not going to be any opportunity for a long time. You know, there's going to still be quite a bit of struggle for a long time, even after Maduro's out of the picture.
Yeah, and so. This is what I want to bring up about Venezuela. It's like I think a lot of people think that Venezuela was this 30, 40-year problem, right? Venezuela was almost an entire 8-year presidential election. What we see is 8 years. Mm-hmm. And when you start doing what Biden is doing is that you say, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. You go and fight for the nurturer, right? The person who's more likable. And I tell most people this, and I'm happy to say this. I voted for Obama in 2008, and I voted for Trump in 2016. That blows liberals' minds.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, and people don't understand the concept. And it was, I finally realized, I started.
I'm going to need to see your tax returns, please.
Actually, please don't.
No.
There's something there.
But what I realized is the country was
What'd
about
you pay, like $750?
Right? That was the whole problem. Country was about to go into a problem, right? We all saw it coming. Everyone in 2008 knew it was coming. And then all of a sudden, it was like, well, let me go after the guy who's most likable, right?
Well, that's politics.
Yeah, that's politics 101.
That's why George Bush got elected.
Yeah. So you go after the person who's most likable. Same thing that happened in Venezuela. We see a problem coming. Let's go after the person who's most likable, saying free, 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 money, money, money. Right? That's their MO.
And that's
right?
what you see in the Democratic Party right now.
Right
now. The platform is becoming so
it's a lack
illegitimate.
That's a lack of education.
Yeah, but
but I also think people are tired of that. I think people are tired of that. They realize that the Democratic Party really doesn't have anything else to offer.
Are we going to see that in this election?
No,
are we going to see that in this election?
I think what we're talking about is the 20% of voters. That's my personal opinion. Everyone else is Trump's an a-hole. To be honest, is Trump not an a-hole? Do we all think Trump's an a-hole? I personally think every president who's ever been a president is an a-hole.
What you're not seeing though, and I'm gonna stick up for rich people. What you're not seeing is not that I'm rich, but what you don't see is that guys.
But you're white, and that's about the same thing.
Well played.
That's what. Who was it that said that? Oh, Biden said that, right? Yeah. The thing is that those guys do acts of kindness, behind the scenes.
I agree.
And you don't see him promoting that when he's out here doing his thing. Yeah, he's punching and hitting.
When people get upset, Jeff Bezos doesn't donate enough money. Jeff Bezos has donated more money than me and you will ever make in a freaking lifetime.
But at the end of the day, and I think what Trump was going at today is that he truly feels that he's fighting for the American people. I think that's what he's coming at. I think he was way too defensive in the beginning. I think that threw a lot of people off.
He needs to retell.
But if he sticks to that message, I think
if he sticks to the message, I think he'll be fine.
And he needs to go back and tell that story. He needs to remind people that the square footage of the White House was a step down from where he came from.
Yeah, but that's a horrible place to talk.
Maybe that's a stupid way to say it, but my point is that the guy had no need to run for president.
He donates his salary.
His life. Yeah. He went from being wildly popular across all segments of society, rich and famous, whatever he wanted, to having half the country hate him overnight, getting his family and himself investigated by the FBI. That's no joke.
And he started talking about that when he talked about the transition of power, which I agree with. The Democrats never allowed for a peaceful transition of power.
Trump has lost money, and his family's lost money by him running for president. Trump is one of the only people in recent history.
Let's be honest. We all know they're going to make money on the back end.
And it doesn't win elections. It doesn't win
Trump? Well, hold on a second now. Hold on a second. when you already have a net worth of a few billion based off the property value. Well, hold on. You have to sell the property. Well, you got to sell the property to get liquid.
No, a lot of those hotels aren't his property.
Okay, hold on.
I mean, he's just licensed his name.
Okay, but it doesn't matter. That's revenue. If he, and some of these properties he does own, and we can go through it, but if he owns a property that's worth $300 million and he owes $100 million on it, he's still net $200 million.
This is not an argument that's going to win the election. What wins the election, it's talking about people in Pennsylvania. What wins the election is talking about people
bringing back manufacturing, right? Bringing back jobs.
Those are the things.
Record economic numbers.
Here's my point. With most politicians, they get elected and they make $150,000 a year, which is a lot of money to I think most people. And then like what Johnny's saying, on the back end, they do the book deals for a couple $1 million advance on the book.
The Obamas are a perfect example.
Yeah, exactly. And then they go make $500,000 a speech, a.k.a. Clinton. I mean, come on. That's how they make that money. Here's my only point. When you already...
And he's going to do the same thing.
But Trump's already worth $1 billion.
It doesn't
you give
matter.
him $1 million for a book. He doesn't care about that.
Do you think
that
Jeff
doesn't
Bezos...
move the dial.
Do you think Jeff Bezos stopped caring about money once he made $1 billion?
No, but what I'm saying
exactly.
What I'm saying is the motivations for doing things change. Let's call out some Republicans. If you are Marco Rubio, okay? Mm-hmm. A few years ago, that guy was still paying off student loans.
Right.
I'm not knocking him. He's just like anybody else, right? Marco Rubio can write a book and make more money by writing a book than he can earn being a senator for maybe 10 years.
Right.
And that's a big step up for, a regular guy. I'm just saying that when you're already a billionaire, becoming president isn't like setting you up for life. Trump's already 73 years old.
But back to Aníbal's point, nobody cares. It's like a woe is me argument.
Okay, all right.
It's like, and it doesn't connect with people.
And it's woe is me, I'm a billionaire argument.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's like, oh, look at what I've given up for you. Look at everything I've sacrificed for you. And I don't buy it, and I don't think a lot of people buy it.
But it does work when you talk about nepotism. It does work when he was hitting the Biden's son.
There's a way
one
for
that
Trump.
was the corrupt one.
There's a way for Trump.
That's how you hit it.
Yeah, he needs to mention more Hunter Biden.
There is a way for Trump.
He hit it pretty hard tonight.
I don't think he should talk about it anymore.
There's a way for Trump. There's a way for Trump to take it back to because you guys are right. Nobody feels sorry for a billionaire. But when you talk to most people and you ask them what they want in a politician, many of them will say somebody who's not been a career politician. And Trump can bring it around and say, look, I spent my whole life doing business. I stepped into this job because I really wanted to do it. And we've done a great job, and coronavirus hit, and you bring me back, and we're going to get this thing going again. This guy over here had 8 years in the White House with Obama. He had his chance, and he's been doing all of this for 47 years. He can't come to you now and say he has all the solutions.
The way you just articulated that would win 1 million votes.
Yeah,
the unfortunate part is Trump won't articulate it as well as you did. Well, that's where I said he's not a great debater. I want to go ahead and declare
my candidacy. I don't want to do it, but
that's how you have that conversation.
I gave up my moderate salary.
You twisted my arm.
But that's how you have that conversation. You let them know you've been in politics for 47 years. Of that, 39 years was in some form of
That's the point he needs to continue to hit.
So why didn't you stop? Why didn't you have the KKK marked as a terrorist group? Why haven't you been fixing BLM? Why haven't you been doing all these things? Those are the conversations that you had.
Who is going to fix this? Who is going to get to his campaign?
Wait a second. But what about the Democrats? To me, they sound like a third world country politician.
Well, because they
sound like a corrupt politician from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, because they're promising. It's all about the promises and the money and the giveaways and and now you add the racial component in that everybody's going to live in this utopia where we all love each other and respect each other and we don't offend each other and that's just not reality.
And that's the reason you vote, right? That's what gets 50% of the vote. Free, money.
Yeah.
We're all
48% of the vote.
The big swing and a miss though. The big swing and a miss though, and he's going to get a lot of flack for it. Was the white supremacist question? The condemnation of the white supremacists.
How hard is it? Why? So this is a question I have for whoever can answer it. why doesn't he, when he gets asked a question like that, why doesn't he just diffuse it? It's a stupid question. Nobody believes.
He's actually said it before.
Yeah, he has. He had to. I remember when he went on the disavow campaign, he was like, I disavow. I've said it 10 times. Like, but every time they ask that question, it's a gotcha question. And Trump is smart enough to know better by now. He doesn't seem to. He doesn't seem to address.
He started to fix it when he said, finish the statement. When you said there are nice guys on both sides, when Joe Biden said that and Trump said,
that's what he should have done. He should have finished the statement.
That's what he should have done. But instead, he gave himself wiggle room on an issue that has no wiggle room.
I know.
I think we're hard on Trump right now.
No, we're not. We're not hard on Trump at all.
If
we should be aggressive with our leaders.
I don't know who or where these KKK people are that everybody keeps talking about. I grew up in the South. Listen, I grew up in the South. Okay, I've never met somebody, as far as I know, that's in the KKK. Everybody keeps talking about it. I'm like, where are these people? Where do they meet?
Well, not only that, we're here.
It's the 1% problem, right? It's the 1% problem.
I mean, anybody watching this,
all Trump's got to do is say, "Of course, I don't support that."
Anybody watching this knows that we're going to vote for the president, and hopefully he's going to get reelected. But we got to call balls and strikes as well, and keep everybody level headed, And it's not good enough to say, "Oh, well, Chris Wallace was a bad moderator,"
that's right,
and and not point towards the mistakes that he made in the debate.
Just like the peaceful transition question. I mean, actually, Wallace didn't hit Trump on that.
Why didn't he bring up the Middle East and talk about that?
The Nobel Peace Prizes that he's been nominated for.
Talk about everything he's been doing in the Middle East.
The whole thing about even that question, which makes me mad. I just want to bring up that question one more time. Is anyone from the KKK, if he says all of those organizations are racist, I don't approve of any of them. Let's say that was his answer, and we all go, great answer, Trump. Are the KKK inevitably just going to vote for the left? No.
Right.
It wouldn't have changed any outcome.
Isn't one of their leaders voting for Joe Biden? Because
that's what I mean. That's my point. It's like he got caught, and that's why I think, like we said, Biden kind of won just by the bar being low. Yeah. And then I felt like the question of the Nobel Peace Prize not ever being brought up was like a total softball.
But those were nominations. I mean, he didn't win it.
Foreign policy itself. But that's the thing, foreign policy, which is one of the main levers of seeing if someone is going to win re-election, is a pivotal moment. And the last 30 days, foreign policy has been
zero.
A win.
They brought zero foreign policy.
Yeah, but it's been a win for the Trump administration.
That's not what this debate. I mean, does anybody know the topics of the other debates? I mean, surely foreign policy.
Yeah, and I think this one was more just focused on what's happening here nationally.
Well, he's been nominated for 2 Nobel Prizes. I
mean, and I think it'll come up. It's just I don't think this was the debate for it, unfortunately. But I still think that he missed 2 opportunities to bring that up.
So from a political campaign perspective, here's the thing that I'm seeing that I hope gets fixed. And hey, we're all sitting over here pontificating. We're not part of the campaign, but because we are involved in politics, we all know that you have to stay on message. And I don't understand why he's not showing up, President Trump, prepared with his message to drive it home, to stay on message. And every time Joe Biden or the moderator gets him off of it, he answers the question and you get right back on your message and drive it home. Why is that not happening? That is professional politics.
Because I don't think he's being coached.
He's not a professional.
He's got the money to have the people to teach that.
But will he listen to the consultants?
Never been him, though.
Yeah, he's not going to listen to the consultants.
See,
I could easily see the fact being that, people are like, all right, hey, we got this debate coming up. Do you want to go ahead and go through some talking points? Do you want to go, kind of role play? He goes, no, I got this.
I'm good. I got, Sleepy Joe. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, look, and I think, it's his weakness, right? His arrogance is his weakness, and I think he's going to look real hard at the next debate and wonder. So? I think he's going to.
Does he do?
I think he prepares a little bit better for the next debate.
Does he look in the mirror? Does he look in the mirror?
I think what the difference is, he thought he was going to go against a Hillary part 2, right? That was his mentality. Is Hillary's going to be quid pro quo, fight.
Well, Hillary's strategy was to let Trump attack her because it would look like a man attacking a woman. So she never really even hit back. She just let him constantly.
But now you look like you're just beating up an old man, right? And so I think with Joe, if anyone on his team is not a yes person, right? They kind of tell him, Trump, you need to do X, Y, Z. Like we're saying right now, X, Y, Z is how you win the next one. If you go, let him bury himself, sit back, and then fire facts because Trump has all the facts on his side.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
and if he fires the facts, he doesn't have to say more than probably a minute response and go, next.
Yeah.
And Biden wouldn't be able to respond.
And that was the point that we made right after the debate ended, which is when Donald Trump brought up the facts, Biden was speechless. He had nothing
you could see it in his face.
He had nothing to fight back with.
Yeah.
The only time that Biden had the upper hand was when when Trump would lose his cool, and when he would get defensive, and when he wouldn't let Biden talk. And that's when, because then he could say, "Oh, he's a clown. Oh, he's he's being aggressive. He's being nasty. But when Trump was level-headed and brought out the facts and made his points, Biden was stunned. That's it. He was stunted.
Well,
but where I think he did himself a disservice was all this time building up this narrative that he wasn't going to be up to par, that he was going to be Sleepy Joe, that he was going to be. So he basically lowered the bar on Joe Biden.
Yeah,
I think to the point where I think he even where even he himself got caught off guard.
Again,
I think Biden terrible.
So I think about almost like the wars and like the war in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
The Afghans don't have to win; they just have to not lose.
Yeah.
And when Biden went into this, when Biden went into this debate, he didn't have to win. All he had to do was not lose.
It's the same like a boxer mentality. If I just last 9 rounds, I might stay alive and win, and that's exactly what he did. And I think that the tax thing is going to come up again. I guarantee that's 3 debates in a row. Yeah. And this is where I think he should win on that question. I'm pissed that no one in this camp ever brought it up. He goes, so you mean I pay over $500,000 in other jobs and CPAs to make sure I pay almost nothing in taxes? You're telling me that's a problem, that I hire 20, 30 people to not pay taxes? Because that is literally the law you created.
But that goes back to what Joe, the point that kind of Joe was talking about. Where all of a sudden the average person is going to be like, oh, well, I can't hire 20 or 30 CPAs.
All he has to do is say, guys, look, I own multiple businesses, and all of my tax documents and all of my financials go to a CPA firm, and they tell us at the end of the year what we owe or what we're getting back. And we either pay it or we receive a refund or we carry it forward, or whatever the law is. And that's the law, and it's the law that he wrote. So if he has any issues with it, take it up with yourself.
And remember,
and that's it. Be done with it. And the American people get it.
All Americans are taking advantage of the tax code. They do it every single year.
I've gotten a refund for like 10 years running.
They do it every year because you
years
shouldn't pay more to the federal government than you not.
And here's the thing. And here's the thing that plays in Trump's favor. Every American knows that. I probably should let somebody else, or at least have TurboTax, at least do something to like make sure that I'm doing it right.
Right.
Like everybody knows that. But here's what they also know. They also know that at the end, when they're all done, whether it's TurboTax, HR Block, a corporate CPA, whatever it is, they know that at the end, when the paperwork's done, there's going to be a number there, and you're just going to pay it. Or you're going to get a refund, and that's it, and there's no debating it, and it's done and over. And every American knows that's the way the IRS is, and that's it. If you do right, you're fine. If you do wrong, eventually you'll go to jail.
And if Trump had done something wrong,
of course they would have come after him.
No, if Trump had done something wrong regarding his taxes, the left would be calling for his head right now. They would be chanting to throw him in jail, just like they were doing to Hillary. But the truth is that they didn't. That he didn't.
Well, the fact that we're talking about the taxes, are we letting the Democrats set up that subject?
It's already out in the ether. We might as well.
The moderators are going to bring it up. They brought it up in this debate. They're going to bring it up in the other debates.
I was just making
because they're setting up that class warfare argument.
Exactly. I was just making the point that actually that issue, although it seems devastating, the American people are primed to accept Trump's common sense answer because we all have to interact with the IRS, and we all know what the outcome is. The outcome is what it is. Yeah. And you either did it legal or you didn't do it. And all Trump has to say is, guys, I pay my taxes, I pay what I owe, and that's it. If I would broken the law deal, don't you think the IRS would have come after me? I mean, they sent the CIA, the NSA, and everybody else in the FBI after me. Come on.
I'm still loving how Trump looked amazing under the environmental question. I think that was phenomenal.
He got off really easy. Not easy, but he got off good, smooth on that one.
Well, he handled the, do you believe in man-made climate change? And he what was the exact
answer?
He
said yes.
To an extent.
He said to an extent. There's a lot of things. He said to an extent. There's a lot of things.
But that's an appropriate answer.
Which is an appropriate answer because everybody knows that we don't have definitive answers 100% on everything.
But what he said was true, which is when it comes to the Paris Climate Accord and all the environmental numbers and facts and figures that are out there, we are in far better shape now than we've ever been, and in far better shape than most countries around the world.
And we are the better actors when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And those types of agreements are really scams to cause the United States to fork up money. I mean, it's a transfer of wealth.
That's what it
from the United States to other countries.
And that's the unfortunate part with the Paris Accord is because he knows if he dives into that, like you just did, you've actually articulated many of his points the way I wish Trump would ever articulate his points, but that's not Trump.
Yeah,
But if he went into the Paris Accord like you just did, the American people just woo, because that's the reason he backed out. It's literally give us wealth to other countries.
And he didn't even go into the trade.
It's welfare to other countries.
Yeah, it's welfare to other countries.
I will say also the law
because China doesn't give a crap.
They've broken it. India breaks it.
Hector is making the comment that he was also really effectively when it came to law and order. I'm sorry, a part of the debate. I think that's a campaign clip right there. The
law and order was really strong.
Yeah, that's a campaign clip tomorrow.
His basis right now is what? Right, law and order, veterans, military.
That's how you get.
He's
that's
going
how you
get
old people
I don't
and
think
suburban moms.
The next debate is when?
The 7th of October.
I don't know.
Next Tuesday. Next week.
Look, I don't even know what's going on tomorrow.
Monday's the 5th.
Look, so the other point that Hector made though that I did want to address was he's like two old guys beating each other up. That's what I saw, and it seems to be a fair fight to me. The problem is that while technically he's accurate, Trump looks like the younger candidate.
Yes, he does.
And
he does.
By a lot.
By quite a bit. And so
the spray tan.
If I'm a senior citizen, I might be cringing a little bit with the way that he treated Biden, especially when talking about his son. And look, one of the clips that I can assure you is going to be played is when Biden's going over and over again, my son, like he was pleading, almost for him. And they're going to play that because it pulls right at the heartstrings.
I mean, you got to be careful. Yeah, you got to be careful. I mean,
that's a double-edged sword also. Americans don't like nepotism.
Biden is the better politician, right?
Americans
Joe's mentioned it. He's a politician.
But Trump knew that if he brought up the Hunter Biden stuff, which was going to come up anyways, but that it was basically going to be a shot at the knees.
But all he had,
it was going to weaken him, which it kind of did for a little bit.
Yeah, but all Trump has to do to get that point across is to say, listen, I understand it's your son, and you might want to hook the guy up with a job. But when you're the vice president of the United States, you can't have your son making $3 million off the Russian wife of the mayor of Moscow. You just can't do it. Yeah. And I'm not going to do it. And and then move on.
Yeah. So nepotism will never win. Again, Americans, citizens hate nepotism.
I would just like to remind everybody that JFK hired his brother.
That's right.
I mean, the Democrats act like Trump having his kids. And are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All of JFK's family, they were like running booze out the back of the White House.
No, my favorite is when liberals get all up in arms about Trump, threatening a third term, and I go, well, let's see for a second who has actually had a third term, and it's like and so you can always point back to the Democrats' history and see all the wrongdoings there, and so. It's one of these things that they love to call out hypocrisy until you call them out on their own, and then that's when they clam up real quick. Yep. Guys, thank you so much for watching the Yard Sign, this special edition of the presidential debate coverage. This was a lot of fun. I think maybe we'll give it another shot for the next one. But we appreciate you watching. We're going to also put this up as an audio version of our podcast as well. So keep an eye out for that. You can subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcast platforms. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Thank you to Hector. Thank you to everybody who's been watching. The numbers were actually fantastic. Hector chiming in. Jimmy Carter had his brother Billy get bought out by Muammar Gaddafi back in the late 70s. So
wow,
I mean,
Democrats doing inappropriate things? No,
that's an interesting one. I have to look up on that, brush up on my 70s history.
Poor King Maria.
All right, one more shot over there of the main. Oh, sorry,
congratulations! Congratulations to the Lightning for bringing back the cup to Tampa.
What?
Yep.
We're expecting the Rays and then the Bucks to do what they have to do.
And the Heat. Come on, we all got to be Heat fans, man. They're going up against the Lakers.
No.
Come on, we want to see.
I don't believe in basketball.
We don't want to see him take down LeBron. Come on,
they're on deployment.
I don't believe in basketball.
They're on deployment. They're
well, I am.
They're in their bubble.
I'm gonna wear my Heat jersey on
in
Monday.
the bubble. What kind of bubble is that? You get to go to Disney every day.
Literally live at Disney.
Like
I don't think they're going to theme parks.
Talk about a bubble.
Do
they shut anything down out there for them?
They're
the hotels that they're in
a facility. Yeah, they're in a facility taking care of
and then they're doing all the.
I mean, Disney's so slow.
The games
right
are
now,
playing. No, the games are being played at the Wild World of Sports.
Yeah, but their cool down is the water slides, so they get to cool down.
I don't know. People are still getting deliveries at their hotel rooms, and I'll leave it at that right there.
Oh yeah, all kinds of deliveries.
Oh yeah, I bet they are.
All right, again, thank you so much.
That wasn't your wife. That was not your wife. Oh boy,
man, you just couldn't help yourself.
No, I cannot.
Is Andrew Gillum in Orlando?
I'm snapping my fingers right now. No one can see it.
I love that he's trying to come back out on Twitter and trying to talk politics again, like nothing's happened. What though?
I give props.
Like the interview solved all his problems.
I give props to Alan Gillum for taking all the money from Andrew Gillum for taking all the money away from what's that?
From Morgan
and Morgan.
John Morgan.
I would have more respect for the guy.
$20 million.
I would have more respect for the guy if he would just go and get a job, right? Just accept his defeat.
He's a Democrat. He's not going to get a job.
Do well at something.
There's something wrong with that.
Do well at something. Do well at something. And then come back in 10, 15 years if you really are interested in politics. I mean, my gosh.
Do you think he'll still be married to his wife in 10 to 15 years?
No. Come on. That's how can you do?
I give it another year. I give it another year tops.
LGBTQ vote.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. All right. We got cold pizza. We got more cold pizza waiting on us. So, on behalf of Joe Wicker and Abel Cabrera, Jeffrey, Nick, thank you guys for hanging out. Lindsay also helping out here in the background. That's right. We wouldn't have the pizza if it wasn't for her. So
thank you.
Little love for the pizza. Again, thanks so much for watching The Yard Sign, and please tell your friends. Until next time, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back either at the next debate or on Monday night, 7:00. And I'm looking for my outro here. There it is. All right. Yes, that's exactly how it goes. All right. Good night, everybody.